Welcome to a new episode of our channel, where we delve into the dark depth of Mexican reality. Today, we will unravel a confrontation that has shaken Chiapas, revealing the harsh reality of drug trafficking and the constant struggle of authorities against cartels, CJNG weapons, and best. A seizure that arose a chaos in the Chiapas lands where Mexican law enforcement, in collaboration with the DEA, exchanged gunfire with alleged drug traffickers from the feared Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Under the command of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho. It all began with the death of an agricultural truck that triggered an armed confrontation on the Villa Corso State, Chiapas. In this video, we will explore recent events in Chiapas, where a multi-institutional group stormed the CJNG safe house. Dive into the details of the red zones in the region, the brutal collapse affecting various communities, the assault that unleashed the confrontation, the seized subjects, and the military presence looming over Chiapas. Before delving into this dark and revealing narrative, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel to not miss any updates. Don't forget to like this video and join us until the end, where we will unravel the dark secrets hidden behind the confrontation in the Chiapas land. Get ready for a shocking journey into the depth of Mexican reality. The dark plot of the confrontation in Chiapas reveals an even more sinister reality, where the battle between security forces and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the CJNG, reaches staggering levels. The stolen agricultural vehicle, equipped with GPS, became the key to unraveling the criminal plot. The initial report pointed to members of organized crimes as responsible for the death, triggering a coordinated response from security forces. The GPS tracking revealed a surprising location. It matched information provided by DEA special agents who had been pursuing a dangerous CJNG cell for months. The designated location became the scene of an intense confrontation when law enforcement, accompanied by DEA agents, arrived. Armed men with rifles greeted the authorities with a hail of bullets, but, feeling outnumbered, chose to flee, leaving behind a trail of chaos and danger. The seizure that followed the confrontations reveals the magnitude of the arsenals in the hands of the CJNG. 9 AR-15 rifles, a Gallo rifle, a 12-cut shotgun with a fit stock, an AK-47 known as Cuerno de Chivo, an accessory to use rifles as grenade launchers, 74 magazines for various weapons, 3 40-caliber grenades, a makeshift grenade, 7 vehicles of different brands, bulletproof vest, and 1,700 rounds of ammunition. All this weaponry, captured in the conflict, was handed over to the public prosecutor office. However, the unsettling question arises. Is it possible that the CJNG possesses more hidden arsenals in other locations? The answer remains suspended in uncertainty as DEA agents continue to trace possible hiding places in collaboration with the Mexican armed forces. This episode leaves an indelible mark on the narrative of the fight against organized crimes, raising doubts about the magnitude and scope of the threat posed by the CJNG. Meanwhile, the shadow of uncertainty persists, and the confrontation in Chiapas reveals the complexity of a battle that is still far from reaching its end. In an even darker turn, official sources reveal disturbing details about the arsenal seized in Chiapas. The weapons and bulletproof vests bore the unmistakable mark of the CJNG and the Deltas group, an armed wing used by El Mencho for high-impact attacks. This direct connection between the cartel and the weaponry suggests an organized and lethal machinery. Intelligence reports indicate that the group that defied authority in San Pedro Buenavista, Villacorso, Chiapas, was under the command of Marco Aurelio, alias El Peligro, accompanied by another individual known as El Narizón. The criminal plot becomes increasingly complex, a living society immersed in a disquieting reflection on the magnitude of the threat faced by law enforcement. In the darklands of Chiapas, Mexico, the dispute between the CJNG and Sinaloa cartels for control of the territory has reached alarming proportions. Mexican authorities will struggle to contain violence and drug trafficking. But the situations become even darker with the revelation that the CJNG has ventured into Guatemala, unleashing a wave of crimes on Guatemalan soil. Videos circulate on social media warning about armed groups linked to drug cartels in Chiapas on the border with Guatemala. Guatemalan authorities have responded with preventive operations in the border area, aware of the looming threat to the south. Police Station 43 of the National Civil Police in Huehuetenango issued a circular in September, alerting about the possible entry of the CJNG members into Guatemalan territory. This dispute focuses on strategic areas such as Mentón, Santa Ana Oeste, Mesilla, Democracia, all in Huehuetenango, and Tecumumen, Malacatan, Tacaná, Seminole, all in San Marcos. The reason? A power struggle, takeover, and territorial control. Despite reports and armed attacks in Huehuetenango and San Marcos linked to the CJNG, confirmation of these events still remains in the fog. Residents of border areas recount the entry of drug traffickers in caravans, the commission of crimes, and the rapid escape to Mexico. Guatemalan authorities reinforce military and police presence at the borders. But the unsettling question arises, will these measures be sufficient? The threat of the CJNG extends beyond Mexican borders, plunging Guatemala into a whirlwind of violence and challenges. The answer to the question of the effectiveness of security measures persists in a reality where the shadow of drug trafficking threatens to darken the horizon even further. The harsh reality unfolding in Chiapas is evident in a palpable collapse. In the recent confrontation between state forces and the CJNG, no casualties or injuries were reported, but the overall situation in the southeastern Mexico is devastating. Organized crime has imposed control, blocking communities, regulating migration flows, and manipulating prices of basic goods. Their incursions into marginalized homes turned them into safe houses, subjecting residents to join their ranks under threats and violence. The recent military presence, with at least 2,300 personnel at the Chiapas-Guatemala border, has not succeeded in dispelling the dark shadow looming over the region. The group El Maíz, an arm of the CJNG, perpetrates forced occupations, expelling those who resist joining their ranks. The population, in despair, sees the military as their last hope, but reality persists, and the armed groups seem untouchable. Over 3 years ago, intelligence reports pointed to the dispute between Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation Cartels for strategic control of municipalities near the Pacific and bordering Guatemala. The Zetas, Beltran, Liva, Gulf, and San Juan Chamula cartels also weave their network of influence. Gangs like Mara Salvatrucha 13 and Barrio 18 add to the scenario dedicated to drug dealing and homicides. Uncertainty looms over the population, wondering how they can live under these conditions. The US DEA deploys agents to gather vital information in the presence of powerful criminal groups and organizations. Hope fades in the grim reality of Chiapas, where the fight against organized crime seems like an endless battle. and Pins remains elusive on a horizon darkened by violence and impunity. Desolation hangs over Chiapas, and the red zones reveal a terrifying panorama. On the Guatemala border, the metastasis of drug trafficking corrupts entire towns in a fierce dispute between the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Extortion and thousands displaced people ravage places like Comalapa, Amatenango de la Frontera, and Motocingla. Anguish manifests in zozobro, panic, and the scarcity of gas and gasoline as desperate people seek to escape each day. The critical situation also extends to other areas. On the Suchiate border, dismembered bodies bear grim testimony to the unleashed violence. The Selva Lacandona region, a strategic on the route to the Gulf of Mexico, becomes a stage of marches and escapes, revealing the complexity of the conflict. Nueva Palestina and Frontera Cruzal, key communities, march in search of security. To the north, in Reforma, the person of the CJNG's Delta group leads to arrests, disappearances, and dismemberments. The city plunges into a critical situation where barbarism seems to know no bounds. The Zapatista Army of National Liberation had already warned in 2021 of an imminent civil war in Chiapas, pointing to government alliances with organized crime. Chiapas, on the brink of the abyss, witnesses atrocities that defy all understanding. The question persists: how long can the population endure this infernal reality? Violence, corruption, and impunity weave a dark tapestry over the region, where hope struggles to survive amid the chaos unleashed by the vortex of drug trafficking. The population desperation in the face of narco violence has triggered a clamor for the urgent presence of the National Guard and the Mexican Army. However, behind this demand, the founder of the territorial war lies a trap. Despite existing military presence, such as the 101st Infantry Battalion in Chico Muselo, security has not been guaranteed, exposing a failure in protecting the communities. The recent deployment of over 2,000 soldiers in the border region has not succeeded in curbing human rights violations perpetrated by organized crime. In contrast, surgical operation by the DEA to neutralize significant leaders of drug trafficking who operate in the United States seems to have alleviated the distress more than local military forces. The military presence, far from being a solution, raises questions about its effectiveness in protecting the population from the vortex of drug trafficking. The heartbreaking reality in Chiapas reveals a desperate population, clamoring for military presence to counteract the narco violence that has ravaged the region. However, these requests conceal a trap, with a backdrop of historical corruption between the armed forces and organized crime. Militarization, always rejected, has proven to exacerbate human rights violations without addressing the roots of inequality and marginalization that fuel these groups. The entry of over 2,000 soldiers has not halted the atrocities perpetrated by organized crime. Military presence seems to be an immediate but insufficient response to tackle the deep-rooted causes of the conflict. It is truly efficient, or is just a momentary palliative? The population finds itself caught in a dilemma between the urgency of protection and distrust toward the armed forces. In this darker scenario, reflecting on the true impact of militarization becomes a call to conscience. Is this the solution, or merely a mirage of security amid the storm? We want to hear your opinion. Don't forget to leave your like, activate the bell, and comment before you go. For now, with nothing more to say, I bid you farewell until the next video.